if it's like someone were to cut me with a knife. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm inviting you to my coffee talk series where I'll be sharing my interesting and intriguing life stories. For today's coffee talk, I want to talk about how I got a plastic surgery during the COVID-19 pandemic and how it was covered by my student insurance. Sounds unbelievable, right? And if you love hearing interesting life stories like this or love watching lifestyle videos, please make sure to drop a like to my video and subscribe to my channel. I truly, genuinely love your support as I'm just starting on YouTube. And if you have any questions or comments, please make sure to drop them down below so I can chat with you there. But essentially today's video is going to be 4 parts. Number 1, what kind of plastic surgery I got and why was it covered by my insurance. Number 2, how did I find my surgeon and make sure that she was in my health insurance network. Number 3, what was it like to travel during the COVID-19 pandemic. And last but not least, how much did it cost in total, really? So without further ado, let's get into it. So as for what kind of plastic surgery I got and why it was covered by my insurance, it really goes back to the age of 6 where my mom discovered there's sort of a cleft on my chin as we were doing a family photo shoot. We were just so perplexed at the time and we didn't really know what this was. So we went to a lot of doctors and hospitals to seek answers. Funny enough, many doctors had no clue at all either. Some said it was hair lip and others just didn't know what this was. And we tried a lot of different things as well. Acupuncture and also, like other traditional Chinese methods, but they didn't really seem to help. And it wasn't until I was 14 and I was taking a gap year in the US with my mom. And we, of course, saw a doctor here too, and he diagnosed this as Perry-Romberg syndrome. What this syndrome is that it's a very rare syndrome or disease. Still to this day, there's no cure for it. That it atrophies one side of the face to become smaller than the other side, and it not only atrophies the skin or fat, it also affects the bone or the tissues under the skin as well. So as a result, I talk differently and I have trouble breathing at night. I talk like there's air flowing out everywhere I say, and there's a septum curvature in the nose caused by the syndrome that gives me a headache breathing at night. I usually just breathe through my mouth. And this really made me have a difficult time at school when I was growing up because I just look so different and I talk differently, and some kids made fun of me, others even worse bullied me for it. And that was one of the most important lessons I had to learn growing up, is that look isn't everything. Just because someone looks different or talks differently doesn't mean that person cannot succeed in life. And this syndrome basically took me a while in my teenagehood to make peace with what this was and why it appeared in my life. After realizing that everyone has to go through a unique and somewhat difficult journey, I settled with it and decided to figure out what's best for myself and how can I make the best out of it moving forward. So yeah, back to the topic. So essentially, taking that into context, my doctor performed pretty much 3 things during the surgery. One is putting an implant starting from here to all the way right here to kind of make up the bone loss that's caused by the syndrome. And secondly, she grafted some fat from my belly using liposuction and put it on my left side of the face to even out the difference on the 2 sides. And last but not least, she did some tissue transfer with an incision on the upper and lower lips. As you can see, there's a line that goes this direction, and on the left side of the line, it's just thinner and weaker than the right side. And this line right here, if it's like someone were to cut me with a knife, and it just appeared right here. I can show you a before picture. So yeah, those are what my doctor did during the surgery. As for why it was covered by my student insurance, it really comes to the definition of plastic surgery. Essentially, there are two types. One is cosmetic surgery and the other is reconstructive surgery. Cosmetic surgery is to improve the patient's appearance and self-esteem, and reconstructive surgery seeks to restore bodily function or correct a deformity. So for me, since I have trouble talking and breathing, it's more of a functional difficulty, and that's why when my doctor's team filed this surgery with the insurance, it got covered because it was more of a reconstructive surgery. So it did take me a while to find the surgeon I had because Perry-Romberg syndrome is just so rare, and I doubt that every plastic surgeon has experience with it. So what I did is I hopped on Google and typed in Perry-Romberg syndrome surgeons. Eventually, I narrowed down to about 4 surgeons. And the next thing I did was to log onto my insurance website, and under doctors and facilities, I typed in each surgeon's name to see if their facility or themselves are in my insurance network. I eventually decided to go with this doctor that's based in Boston, and she seems to have a lot of experience with this and expertise as well. And after making sure that she's the right one, I contacted her team with details about my conditions and background. And her team, after about 5 days, wrote back to me asking for more photos and also more following up questions about my Perry-Romberg syndrome conditions. And that's how I got the process started. So my mom and I actually went to Boston twice, one in February and one in July. For the February trip, we went to the doctor initially to get the diagnosis, to figure out the plan, and I got photos taken and x-rays taken as well. And for that trip, it wasn't anything serious in terms of COVID restrictions. In February, the virus just broke out around the globe, but not so much in the US, so there weren't any governmental, like, official restrictions in terms of that. And I think in total in February there were only about 100 cases in Boston. I know now when I say it, it sounds pretty safe, but by the time we went, we were still super cautious because we're Chinese and we know what it was like at home, and people were super cautious there, and that made us follow safety instructions as well, even though it wasn't required by the state. By the time it was July, Boston has already gone through its toughest time in 2020. We had to check the state restrictions before we travel, and I even called the hospital to make sure that we could travel even though we weren't essential. Of course, before we went, my mom and I also went to a local CVS to get our COVID test and make sure we're negative. I would say though the hardest part was to book flights and hotel. Even though flights were cheaper during the pandemic because fewer people were traveling, I kind of had to figure out the safest airline to travel to Boston and the quickest as well, because not every airline blocked the middle seat. We chose Delta because we've been a Delta fan since forever and they really take it seriously when it comes to COVID-19 restrictions, and we just feel safe on their planes. Hotel was kind of painful to narrow down. We essentially booked an Airbnb near the hospital because my doctor said during my recovery period I was only able to eat a liquid diet because, like I said, I was going to do some tissue transfer around the lips, so the food could not touch the lips. So my mom and I had to find a place with a kitchen where we can cook liquidy foods, and we picked out an Airbnb near the hospital. I would say even though flights were cheaper, hotels were or lodging were more expensive because there are COVID-19 fees like cleaning fees associated. And now I'm going to be breaking down all the budgets of all the items that I got for the surgery. I think this will be the most interesting part as well. So essentially, even after insurance, I still spent around 4,000 on the surgery. For the February visit, I saw two doctors. One is a surgeon that was going to perform the surgery, and the other was a dental expert because I also had concerns about implanting a tooth. So this tooth right here, it's essentially a clipper just to hold the space right there. My plan was to do a tooth implant, and I had concerns because of the syndrome. I wasn't sure it may affect the tooth implant process or not, so I kind of had to seek his expertise. So I saw two doctors, so there are two bills, of course. So I went to a radiology practice as well to get some x-rays taken for my facial structure, because my doctor got in contact with a implant designer to design this facial chin implant, and the designer needed the x-rays to make sure things are made accurately. So there's the radiology clinic fee and also the implant fee as well. And for the actual surgery, oh gosh, that was such a huge compilation of several bills, because there's the surgeon fee, facility fee, and anesthesia and all that. The amount before insurance was gigantic. There was no way we could pay for it. And thanks to my insurance, I only had about 3,000 out of pocket to max out, and all those bills adding together did max out my insurance. So I paid around 3,000 for the actual surgery. So adding that with my initial visit, I landed around 4,000. So yeah, it was still a lot. Even after insurance, I wouldn't recommend anyone to go see a doctor if they hadn't strategically planned for the finance part, because you know, seeing a doctor in the US is so expensive. In the meantime though, I'm still glad that I did the surgery for myself, because we were searching for an answer for so long and now we finally got it. And I am currently planning on doing my second surgery within a month. So stay tuned on that, it's gonna be interesting. And that's it for today's video. Thanks everyone so much for watching. Stay tuned for more life stories from me, and also more lifestyle videos, whether it's my cooking tutorials or just video diaries. This is the direction I'm gonna go moving forward. So if you like this kind of style video, or if you have any suggestions for my channel, please leave your comments and suggestions down below so I can chat with you there. Thanks so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!